And welcome back to the podcast. This is Zach, your host. Today's going to be a little bit of a different podcast. Today we're going to do our first interview, and so I'm looking forward to that. Justin and Tucker are not going to be here today, and so just kind of wanted to fill you in a little bit with what we're going to be doing. We're going to start spreading them out and kind of mixing it up a little bit. And so our interviews are most likely going to be done one-on-one or a couple of us. Probably rarely will it be all three of us with one person. So that'll be a little bit of a change. And then we're also looking at doing a little bit of variation week by week. And so it might be that our podcast goes to every 2 weeks or all three of us together once a month, and we kind of just mix it up a little bit. So we got some things planned and we're looking forward to it. But today we're going to start our interview process. And if you would like to be interviewed, or you think that that you would like to come on and talk about your business, reach out on our Facebook page, let me know, and we would love to get you on the show and talk about your business. Today we are going to be talking to one of my friends growing up. His name is Ezra Harris. He lives currently out in Idaho, and I wanted to kind of introduce him. He has several rental properties, so I'm looking forward to talking about the rental property business today. He currently has 7 rental properties. He's remodeling a couple right now as well. He flips houses. He also rents them out. But he has recently just started another business, and that is the Patriot Dumpster Services. And so we'll talk about that a little bit. But he also has a YouTube channel. So it's the Builder Investor. We'll talk about that as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Without further ado, let's introduce Ezra. Hello, Ezra. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
This is awesome. It's kind of cool. It was weird to kind of figure it out because you're in Idaho, so you're in Pacific Standard Time, and I'm in Central. So we had to work that out, but kind of last minute. But I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for using your morning for us.
No, I appreciate being able to be interviewed on this cool podcast.
It's been fun, man. It really has. So I watched your YouTube videos. Watched them for probably a couple years now.
Yeah,
You've been doing them for quite a while. What's that been like?
it's been crazy. I started out with the goal of getting monetized so I could have kind of another revenue source, kind of like a business, and
Right.
haven't got to that point yet. But I always tell my wife I can be stubborn. I can make as many videos as it takes to get monetized. One day it'll happen. And so it's just been I think it's been about a year and a half or 2 years maybe that I've been trying. So made over 100 and I think 15 videos now. And
Wow.
so it's been crazy. We've got a couple of videos that have gone viral, but nothing going on huge right now because we're so busy in life. But yeah, it's been fun making videos about what I do and the people I meet and all that stuff. It's kind of fun. So
Yeah, so if you are in the home flipping business, or if you like watching people remodel, then you need to check out his channel because that's really what he's doing. It's kind of showing how to do things and how to do the work. It's been fun to watch. Not to get too personal, but you just had some kids, and I
yeah,
say some kids because twins, right?
we just had twin girls, which is crazy.
That's
It's
awesome.
yeah, my wife and I we struggled actually to have kids and weren't able to have kids, and so we went the doctor route and we ended up having two at the same time,
That's
and
awesome.
so it's crazy. It's definitely being first time parents with two is probably it's a big thing compared to having one, but I'm sure having one's a lot too. But two's a new thing for sure.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. I've got 3 boys and we spread them out, so I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So one thing that I've known about you really from since the beginning of knowing you is that you're an entrepreneur at heart. Um, why don't you talk about the business you had when you guys were on the road when you were a teenager?
Yeah, so when I was a teenager, I wanted to make some money, but my parents were missionaries, and so we grew up traveling across the United States and other countries and such. And so we couldn't really make money by doing anything. We knew this missionary family growing up that sold neckties, and I thought that was the coolest thing. Just like, oh, that's a good way to make money. And so, but on the back of the tie, it had my dad's name on the back, like the lapel that you put the back of the tie through.
Right.
And so that was really cool. So I was like, well, that makes sense. So we called that missionary family and said, hey, can we get your contact for where you buy your ties from? And the guy who owned the company, his son's names were Stephen and Harris, and so they put them both
That's
on the back
awesome.
of ties. So it worked out great. And so we sounded like a prayer letter. And so I sold, I don't know, I'd buy like 600 ties at a time. And then I would sell them at churches, and some churches would buy, I think the least I would sell was like 5 ties, but most churches bought somewhere between 15 and 30 ties.
That's
And so
crazy.
I ended up saving my money and buying a four wheeler with it later on. That was my goal. So
That's awesome.
originally it was just to have some snack money to go, like when we were at the gas station, to go buy a Gatorade or something. But ended up taking much more, uh, yeah, much more involved than that, and it was really cool. So
I love
yeah,
it,
that
man.
was
I
the first business, or
I
not?
love I love seeing that entrepreneurial spirit because like there's just something if you have it, you have it. And I remember you always had that, and I thought that you guys had those ties made by your dad because it had the name on the back of the ties.
Yeah,
Because I had several of them, so that's super cool that it was just random that it worked out that way.
yeah, it's kind of funny because I'll go to different churches just if I'm on vacation or something. I'll drop by a church and I'll see the pastor walk up to the pulpit. And I'm like, "That's a Stephen Harris tie." I probably
That's
sold it to them,
awesome.
but they don't
That's
know.
awesome.
But yeah, people walk up to me, shake my hand, and like, "Hey, welcome to our church." And I'm like, "Hey, nice tie. Where'd you get that from?" And
That's
usually from
awesome.
me. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
we there was a kid at the college that I went to. He sold socks for a little
Okay.
while, and it was kind of it reminded me of what you were doing. And I tried to buy as many as I could. Every time I saw them, I'd pick up a couple. And I try to encourage those young people. You know, even on Facebook, you see kids starting lemonade stands or whatever. Try to send them 10, 15 bucks. You know, it just it means the world to them, and it's kind of cool, especially with technology nowadays that we get to do that kind of stuff. So you started out with that spirit and wanting to do those types of things. What was your first business that you started whenever you kind of moved out, graduated, and got out in the real world, so to speak?
Yeah, so I left home when I was 17, and I worked for just a W-2 job, just a normal. Actually, a first job was for a roofing company, but it's just on the side. I've always wanted to do entrepreneurial stuff, so I started a lawn care company.
Mm,
Nothing big, and it didn't. I didn't sell it or anything. It was just something on the side. But I ended up. I think I did 10 lawns a week on the side of my construction job that I had, and so that was pretty cool. I was able to make business cards and get insured and find out all the stuff that you need to do when you're a small business,
right.
and got logos and stuff made. And it never turned into anything huge, but yeah, that was my first business that I started after I graduated high school, moved out, and yeah, that was fun. It was nice to be able to learn how to work with customers and to figure out how much fuel is going to cost for your machines,
Right.
and what the best string trimmer line is for your string trimmers, all kinds of stuff. It's just really neat to learn all those basics for sure.
It's cool because when you get into stuff like that, you can buy the cheapest stuff, but then you realize like it's going to wear out or you're going to lose it quicker. Weed eater string and all that kind of stuff. Like if you get the cheap stuff, it is cheaper, but it's going to go. You're going to go through it
So much.
quicker. So
Yes.
it's so cool to see little things like that that you can pick up on as you go. I've been trying to think through. My boys are starting to get a little bit older. Little businesses that they can start. Just so I mean, if you've got your kids, I want to develop that spirit in them because, like you said, you work that job. I think you realize really quickly it kind of stinks to work for somebody else.
It
It's
does.
it's just not fun, and there's so much more rewarding when you do it yourself. And so that's a really good. I mean, mowing's classic. Just mow the neighbor's yard, stuff like that. Shoveling snow. I'm sure you did that.
Yes.
What you said you started the construction business as well when you were that age, just right out of high school.
Yeah, just after high school, I went to Bible college for a bit, and then after I left Bible college, I decided to. Oh, I came back and started to try to get some jobs that I had before from other companies, and they just weren't hiring. It's just a bad time in the economy. And so I was like, well, I can just start maybe telling people I can do some side jobs. And it ended up, I got so busy with the side jobs that I ended up never getting a job. And
Mm.
so that's been going on for 10 or 12 years now. And it's
Was it
just,
more referral or
yeah, referral.
just
I do one
yeah?
job and then someone would be like, hey, you need somebody like this guy did a great job, whatever. And it got so much, I never had to advertise, never had to anything. It's just word of mouth kept me so busy that before I moved here, I was booked up a whole year in advance.
Mm.
And that was my max. I was like, I can't book up farther than that. I can't even think farther than that. And so The problem with booking a whole year in advance is that when you get one job that goes behind, it pushes to the
Oh
next job.
man.
You get another
Yep.
one, it goes to the next. So it was just a headache. It's like I had to call that customer and then that customer. So yeah, it's a little more simple now. I just kind of book as I go. But
Right.
yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, I started out with the tools I had, my tool belt. That's all I had. I was like, I could fix this with that and this with that, and then I would get a job at this big deck that needed to be refinished. And the lady's like, "Can you do it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so in the job, I quoted this. I needed a saw, so I bought a saw, and then I did the job. And then the next job, I bought this tool and that tool, and so eventually, I got all my tools. And like you said, trying to buy quality is a good thing
Yeah.
to do from the beginning. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the construction in a nutshell. Yeah.
Well, that's cool because like so many people think you have to start out with capital and you have to start out with a bunch of money, so you go get a loan and you do it that way. And that certainly helps the process, but now you owe now.
You, yeah,
And
puts
so
pressure.
now you have to go stack up those jobs and you have to rip through them real quick, and now your quality has the opportunity to kind of go down. I kind of did the same thing, I with Windows when we first started. I sold a bank chain, and there was 25 banks, and most of them were doable with the tools that I had. Just the cheap pole, and they can reach 15 feet. But there was one problem. There was one building that was 40 feet tall, and I was like, "Oh boy, this is not good." And so I still, to this day, we still clean it, call it Big Hoss. But I just put the tools into the estimate, and I realized like this time I'm not going to make a lot of money, but they were biannual, so I was going to do it twice a year. So I bought what I needed and broke even that time. Maybe lost a little bit of money, but the
Yeah.
next time it was all profit because it was just I already owned the tools outright, and it really did work out that way. It takes longer to get the ball rolling, but I think that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, like you said, if you're taking on a loan, I mean, sometimes it's the only way to do it. It takes money
Right.
to make money sometimes. But
Hmm.
yeah, in the beginning, if you're starting out by yourself, just getting the tools you need to get started and then build yourself up from there. It's kind of fun, actually. It's like playing a board game. It's like, okay, this
Right.
tool can get me this much money, but if I buy this tool, I can do this job and that'll make me more money. It's just so much
Right.
fun.
So, how did construction go into, or did construction go into your first rental? Talk about your first rental. What was that like? I'm sure that was scary. Renting something that I would like to get into, and I'm sure many of our listeners today would love to get into. How do you take that first step?
Yeah, it's huge. Rental, I mean, properties in general, there's so many upsides to it, which I'm sure we'll go through. But yeah, my first property I bought, it was a drug house in Goshen, Ohio.
Mm.
It was just after the market had crashed, and so the bank had owned a whole bunch of properties, trying to get rid of them, and so they owned this one, and they're selling it for $28,500.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it was ridiculous. Yeah, we went in there, and like there's residue on the ceiling in the kitchen from like cooking drugs and
Oh,
all kinds of stuff, and it was gnarly. There's graffiti all over the walls, the basement, the windows are kicked out. And so I'm like, well, I can afford this house somehow. Like I don't have
right.
$28,500. I actually only had 5 grand. And so I talked to a person I knew had a little bit of money, and I said, hey, I'd like to buy this house, but the bank won't loan on it because it's not livable. Uh, but I'd like to buy it. I said I can put 5,000 down. And they said, well, we'll finance the rest at a certain interest rate, whatever. And so I
Right.
said, great. And so I moved into the house in as is, and
Oh my goodness.
it was gnarly. So it was cool. So what I did was I went in. I was working for a machine shop at the time, uh, and that I started work at 7 a.m. for them. But in the morning, I'd wake up around 4:30, and I'd go over there, and I would scrub the walls. I would paint, and then so eventually I started the master bedroom, and I cleaned the walls. I painted it, and then redid the floors, and then I moved my furniture into that room, like from the
Oh
place I
man.
was living. The whole rest of the house was nasty, smelled terrible. The bathroom barely worked. Like the shower, like you had to put plastic on the wall because it was so rotten that the water would go into the
Oh,
wall. And so I was living like this homeless 18 year old, whatever it was. No, see, I was 20, 21 at the time. And so I was living like this homeless guy in this house. And so I would just take one room at a time. And it's like when you're buying your tools, it's like just do one little chunk at a time until you got everything. So I think I
right.
moved to the kitchen next, and like I'd like to eat, so I started moving,
Yeah.
cleaning the kitchen out, and took all the walls down, took all the flooring out, put new cabinets in, and all the money I made from my uh, well, technically I was working in the machine shop, and then I was doing construction in the evenings. And so I take all the money from the construction job and put it towards the materials of the house. And eventually I got the whole house to where it was livable. And then well, it was pretty much finished. And then I got married, and then brought my wife home. And the house didn't have AC or anything. And so I came home from our honeymoon. We went to Florida, came back, and I walk into the house, and it's just like, I think it's like 100 outside and 100% humidity. On the inside, it felt hotter. It was,
Oh
we had a picture,
man.
we took a selfie, and we're just completely sweating. And because I didn't have AC, and then I was living like a bum, and so I had flannel sheets on the bed. So it was a real introduction for my wife. But yeah, that was the first house. And then once you got it finished, we were able to get a mortgage on it, which was really cool because it
Yeah.
was all livable and stuff. So the bank would loan us. So I bought it for 28,500, and then I got a loan for 72,000 on it because it was worth, I think,
Nice.
100,000 at the time. And then I was able to take that money and then buy the house across the street from it. And then we moved into it after I'd finished the bedroom and did the whole thing again, except for I was married this time. And so, yeah, just that first
Wow.
house, that was the first house. That was a lot of fun.
So it takes sacrifice
It does.
there,
Yes.
and different levels. Obviously, I wouldn't advocate somebody with a family going in and living in a drug house with drugs on the walls
Yeah,
and
it might not be
stuff like
healthy.
that. But it worked for you, and like I think in a lot of conversations that I have with a lot of people who want to start a business or they want to get in business, they don't they they want the freedom, they want the independence, they want um the higher pay, because it is, if you're working for yourself and you don't have
Yeah.
employees, your margins are through the roof. um but they don't want the sacrifice, and you cannot have your cake and eat it too.
No.
So I feel like, and now it's being displayed pretty evidently in rentals. Sacrifice has to happen in one way or another. You're gonna have to do something you don't want to do. And I equate that to going out at like 10 o'clock at night cleaning windows. I didn't want to do that, but I had to do it. And that now feels a lot easier compared to sleeping in a drug house.
Yes.
But it's sacrifice nonetheless, and I think what I'm gathering from that first story is, um, the same thing can be done. You can find houses, probably not for 28,000 nowadays, but you could probably find a pretty bad house for 70,
Oh yeah.
and you can get into it and you can work it and fix it up. But then your loan will be not 70,000, your loan could probably be 150, 200,000.
Yeah.
So it's definitely repeatable. It's just going to mean that you're going to have to work. You're going to have to sacrifice for it.
Exactly. I'd say there's three things. There's time, there's talent, and there's
Mm,
money. If you got money, then you don't have to have as much talent or time. If you have talent and time, you don't have to have as much money. So depending on where you're coming from, you
right.
can you can buy something that's in better shape than I could if you have money.
Right.
But if you don't, yeah, starting out on the ground level, it also helps you to learn what if you're trying to hire someone in the future,
Mm.
what things cost and how much time it takes to do it and all that stuff. So it kind of gives you perspective. So it's great to start that way.
That's a really good point. You have to have two out of the three,
Yep,
and or if you have one, the other two are going to come into play in one way or another. Yeah, that's great. Did you notice the snowball effect after you got that second house? What was that like?
for sure. Yeah. So we ended up buying three houses in that neighborhood, right? Well, I bought the one in front of that house and the one behind the house. So I call them my monopoly houses because we own the three in a row. And so
Right.
we wanted to convert those into a hotel kind of thing and make more money.
Nice. Yeah.
And so those are really cool. So yeah, the snowball effect was really cool because I borrowed the 70,000 from that for that house, and I paid back my investor that I borrowed money from, and now I'm owing the bank a smaller interest rate. But now I have so that house is paid for, but then the house I bought across the street was completely debt free because I bought that one with money from the first house. And so the second house, I completely remodeled it, and it was a bigger house. It was a three-bedroom instead of a two-bedroom, had a garage. And so when I rented that one out, the money from that one is complete cash flow. It's all passive income. So there's the only money you have to spend is your taxes and your monthly insurance, and then some repairs and stuff. But yeah, it's just a big snowball effect because that house allowed me to buy that house, and then refinancing that house allowed me to buy the next house, and now we only own 7 properties now. We sold 2 when we left Ohio. We had 5 there. Um, and yeah, it's just really neat. And then taxes, I mean, you can get depreciation from your properties, and so you pay less taxes.
Right.
Your properties are worth more every year. Your rents go up every year because of inflation. It's just a no brainer. It's awesome.
That's cool. Man, it's awesome. So if you can take the leap, it's worth taking it and then
Yeah,
getting somebody in there. Because now you own that first house and you're getting rent for it. So
right.
not only do you have the value in it, but you're getting the rent that gives you more cash flow for future projects or whatever's necessary. Then that one gets full, and now it's just compounding over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and in 15,
And
30 years, all those houses will be paid off because of my tenants
right,
paying. And so, yeah,
right. So yeah, that's awesome. So you kept the ones in Ohio and you moved to Idaho. When was that? A couple years ago?
yeah, it's coming up on 3 years ago now.
Wow.
So, yeah, which is a whole other thing because the properties here right now, a property that $28,000 house would be is a $400,000 house here.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah, buying something like that is insane. It's hard. So the good thing about having those properties in Ohio is I have a high net worth, and so when I go to the bank, they see all my income from those properties, and then they see my net worth and all that. So I was able to buy a split level house here, which is one of those houses where you go downstairs for the living room, upstairs for the bedrooms type of thing.
Right.
And I was able to convert that into a duplex, and so I put a door at the bottom, a door at the top, and then put a
Wow.
washing machine in each unit. And so now that house is 2 units in one, and so the house is paying for itself as well. But there's all kinds of other ways to get properties. The one we're living in now, we're still sacrificing because we want to delay gratification. And so the duplex we live in now, we actually paid zero money for it, $0. That we found a person selling it. They were interested in seller financing, and so they said, "Hey, if you bring us a down payment, we'll finance it for this amount." And so I got a
Wow.
private lender. He gave me money. I gave it to them. They gave me the property, and so we moved into it for $0 down. We actually got paid to move into it because the tenants that were living in it had a deposit, and
Oh
so
wow.
we got paid $1,600 to move into the duplex. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And so you're just going to repeat the process again.
Yeah, over and over again. I think we're kind of changing strategies a bit. My goal was to retire by the age of 30,
Right.
and just from not from working, but from having to work. And so we're
Right.
kind of at that point now where we can possibly think about the next steps. And so we're going to kind of focus more on, since we have kids now, we're going to build our own house. We're going to kind of move on, kind of step up our life a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, once we get that kind of settled, we'll either start paying down some of our properties. That way, it kind of gives us some cushion for who knows
Right.
what the future with our country will be like. And so if we can kind of put
Right.
a cushion there, that'd be nice. But then also, I'll look for any seller finance deals I can find, and I have a list of private lenders now that I work with, and so if they're willing to bring the money for the down payment, I'll just buy as many properties as I can.
Yeah.
So,
Man, that's
yeah.
awesome. I want to circle back to what you said just a minute ago, delayed gratification.
Yes.
That is probably one of the banes of our country's existence right now.
Yes.
Is nobody wants to delay gratification.
Nobody.
And it's in as little as I'm not going to eat the donut right now
Yep.
to what you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to live uncomfortably so that tomorrow I can live really comfortably.
Exactly.
And I just don't talk about that for just a minute. How did you come to that mindset that you guys are willing to sacrifice, and your wife? How'd you
Yes.
get her on board to
Yes.
to be willing to sacrifice today so that tomorrow you can live how you want to live?
Exactly. It's like the saying that Dave Ramsey has. You probably kind of heard that before. It's like live
Right.
like no one else today. That way, one day you can live like no one else.
That's right.
It's pretty cool. It was a lot easier for me because I mean I grew up on the mission field. The average wage of the people that we would hang out with was $20 a week. That was a good paycheck for
Right.
them. And so we didn't live very high either. We didn't have a bathroom where we lived. It was an outhouse, and we had to dig our own well. So I mean, it was easy for me to live on the cheap side and live on a.
Right.
I lived in a house, so that was cool.
Yeah.
The drug house didn't matter, I guess. But
Right.
and then I guess marry someone that really loves you and wants to follow you. Um, but yeah, she's been great. But yeah, um, just delayed gratification. It's like you said, people don't even want to skip drinking a pop or eating a donut to save their health because they want gratification now.
Right.
They maybe would eat a salad instead. They would be so much happier later on because their health would be so much better. Um, but yeah, it's just it's necessary, I think.
It is necessary. And um I think the what I'm picking up here out of just these few minutes is sacrifice and delayed gratification mean that you can move ahead in life and you can get to where you want to go.
Yes.
Um, Nothing is free. Uh,
No.
nothing, nothing is gonna just be handed to you. And I think sometimes it can feel like this mountain in front of you of I wish I could do that. I wish I could get there, but if you're not willing to delay the gratification or sacrifice at all, it is a mountain that you can't, climb, that you'll never be able to summit. So, oh man, that's huge. That's so
Yeah.
important to do that. We'll talk about our sponsor here in just a second, but before we do, um, one thing I've noticed with entrepreneurs is um, you're kind of a glutton for punishment. So you have all of these houses, you've moved across the country, you're starting the process again. Now you have twins, and you've got Copper. Is that right? The dog?
Yeah. Uh huh.
Yeah, great looking dog. So you've got all of these things going, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to start a dumpster business.
Yeah. I'm not busy
So
enough as it is.
how does that work? How does that go?
Oh, yeah. Well, so growing up, my dad was a contractor on the side. He was a pastor too, but so he's a contractor, and he always wanted to start one of these businesses. And I've been my dad's sidekick my whole life. He's my hero. So
That's
growing
awesome.
up, watching him do stuff is pretty cool. So he's like, "Hey, we should start a business together one day." I was like, "I'd love to." And so we moved here. When I moved here to Idaho, he still lives in Mexico, pastoring a church down there.
Right.
And he says, "Well, I can't really work. I can't have a job down here. I can't really own businesses down here." I said, "Well, let's start one up here together. You can handle all of the secretarial, all the desk work, and everything from down there. You can handle the phone calls. I'll handle all the legwork up here." And so let's do it. And so we ended up buying these dumpsters together. We thought about other businesses like they had like you can rent your camper to people, and so we're going to buy a fleet of campers and then rent them to people. But
Right.
man, Dad, those are just campers are so finicky already. Like when you live them yourself, so I can
Right.
imagine renting those out to people that don't even know how to take care of them. So I'm like, let's do something else. I said, you talked about a dumpster company when I was little because he used to have this big old car trailer and he put sides on the side and then all the remodeled junk he would throw in the side and it would take forever to load up and you go to the dump and you have to unload it and it just
Right.
forever. So he's like, man, it'd be really cool if you could just have like a dump truck where you could just throw stuff in and then you could just go to the dump and dump it and it'd be done. And so, well, I said, let's take it to another stage. Let's buy a dumpster trailer. They have these nowadays. It's like a rollback trailer, and then you get this big old bin that gets pulled up onto it. I said, I can pull it around with my truck. It's free advertising. I get to use it if I need to, and let's just see where it goes. And so it's like, let's do it. So we bought the trailer. We bought three dumpsters, put the logo on the side, uh, and it's been great. We started off with expensive advertising because we have a little money to play with, and yeah, it was very expensive and it wasn't working too well. And so we ended up just doing word of mouth, and we put dumpsters in specific locations around our town, and then I have signs printed on them. So right now, there's this really busy road in our town, and I got permission from one of the landowners there to put the dumpster on that property. And there's a subdivision right across the street that has when I moved here, it had 2,000 houses in it. I think
Oh
now it
wow.
has probably closer to 3,000. It's growing so much. But everybody kind of leaves from this one road, and that dumpster's parked right across the street. And so everybody who
Nice.
leaves, they see this bright orange dumpster with a patriotic flag on it. Because I mean, up here in Idaho, it's like the most patriotic state in the world.
That's
In
awesome.
America, it's amazing. And so when they see that, they're going to remember, okay, if I need a dumpster, Patriot has it for me. And
Right.
so there's another property we own, the duplex downtown Idaho, and it's right on my property. It's very busy, which unfortunate because that's the only house we could afford. But the fortunate thing is it's next to a busy road, and so I stuck my dumpster there,
Yeah.
and so we've been getting phone calls and then repeat customers. It's just been great. So I think learning the customer service and all that stuff has been the new thing for us, and then learning what counties will take certain things and everything
Right.
dump and stuff. It's kind of tricky, but yeah, it's been something we want to do forever, and it helps my dad with his retirement, which is nice because as a pastor, you don't really get retirement, as you guys talked
Right.
about in one of the episodes. And so one day we're hoping to sell a company. We're not planning on owning a dumpster company for the rest of our life.
Right.
We're going to build it to where our competition is great, and that someone will want to buy it from us.
Right.
So maybe one day we'll sell it for a couple million is our goal, but right now it's worth nothing because we don't have a lot.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the dumpster company in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Well, and that's a good company too. Anything you rent, obviously, talking about renting, is going to pay for itself tenfold, hundredfold. So that's great. But it's also a company where you have assets, so it is viable.
Right.
A lot of times people start a business and it'll be like a cleaning business or a window cleaning business, and they want to sell their window cleaning business or their janitorial business and things like that. And the problem with that is you can't sell it because you don't have assets.
Right.
And unless people are under contract, you don't have anything worth hardly
Selling.
anything at all.
No.
So to have something like that where you have assets, that's awesome. That's a great business to get into. And it, like you said, it'll just pay for itself and
Yeah,
it takes work. It takes work.
it does.
But it's man, it's worth it.
It
That's
is.
awesome. I knew a company, local company here that started a roll off business and sold it to the big competitor in town,
Yeah,
and then he used that money to do
start
something
that.
else.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so fun. It is so fun. Uh, I could talk about that kind of stuff forever. This is where it's at when you can learn how to take money and work it and bend it and flex it and
Yep.
leverage it into more money. There nothing beats it, man. It's a blast.
It's
It's
fun.
awesome. It is. All right, we're gonna do a break here really quick, and we're gonna introduce our sponsor. So I want to we'll show this little video here, and then we'll start talking about our sponsor for today's episode. Guessed it. Today's sponsor is Coffee Bun Roastery. If you are a coffee drinker, then you need to be using Coffee Bun Roastery. The Spivey's are amazing. We've been talking about them for several episodes. If you're on YouTube, you can see here Coffee Bun Roastery. Uh, they're the best. And they're out here doing exactly what we're talking about. They're out sacrificing, they're working hard, they're putting in the hours, they're doing things the right way. And so if you're a coffee drinker, use them. I mean, do what needs to be done here and support our sponsor, Coffee Bun Roastery on Facebook, coffeebunroastery.com. And you can go over there. Several things that you can order. They made on their Facebook page our host's favorite, and so they put Tucker's favorite and Justin's favorite currently, and so go to their Facebook page. They're doing a great job over there. You can see what they're up to. If you are interested in getting some coffee, if you use the promo code BIZA2EZ, BIZA2, the number 2EZ, then you can get $30. You can get free shipping on $30 or more. So I want to encourage you to go and do that. Like I said, they have their swag, they have their coffee cups, they have a ton of different coffees, both decaf and regular. They also have their subscription services, and that's nice because it just shows up. Every bag has on it when they roasted their coffee, which will be probably the day before or 2 days before you get it. So it's prime, it's great quality. Go check it out, order the subscription, use that promo code. I did find out some other people did use the promo code, so thank you for that. I think we're up to 3 or 4 now, so that's pretty awesome. Let's get up to 6 or 8 by next week. But go over there to their website, check them out, and do whatever it takes to keep them busy. And we appreciate the Spivey's Coffee Bun Roastery. Let me see here. If you're on YouTube, I'm going to throw up their picture here just so you can see it. Let's see if this will work here live. I shouldn't have done this. Let's see. There it is. I brought Ezra back. Coffee Bun Roastery in the top corner of the screen. Just check them out. Make sure you go to their Facebook page. Just one cup away from a great day. Coffee Bun Roastery. All right, Ezra, you said you're not a coffee drinker either.
I'm not. I love the smell of coffee, and so maybe I should just go buy some from them just for the smell of it. So
Yeah,
I was about
just
to ask them which smells the best.
walk around your drug houses and do the coffee smell
Yeah, that might
everywhere.
help. Yeah, maybe I can get some coffee scented candles from or something.
Hey, that'd be cool.
That'd be
That's
great.
awesome. That's funny. The one thing that's interesting, like the work you do is labor intensive. You're out, you're doing the work, you're making the videos while you're doing the work and all of these types of things. Um, Without caffeine, do you get caffeine from somewhere else? Are you a monster drinker or you're not a coffee drinker? So, or is it just, it's all Ezra and your natural ability and power to just power through anything?
So I am a sweet tea and a Mountain Dew
Okay.
addict.
Okay.
Um, but for the whole time I remodeled all those houses, I actually stopped drinking soda for 10 years. It was like a fast I did.
Right.
And for multiple different reasons. But yeah, one of them, delayed gratification kind of thing too. But yeah, so I stopped drinking pop for 10 years. And then when I got married, I told my wife I'm going to start drinking pop again on our wedding day because that was kind of a fast. I was fasting for the bride God wanted me to have and a whole bunch of other list of things. But and so on my wedding day, I started drinking pop again, which is probably a bad thing because then I started gaining weight and a lot of stuff. I drank so much pop on our honeymoon, it was bad.
That's
It
awesome.
was funny on our honeymoon. The first thing I did, we went to Walmart and I forgot some swim trunks. We went to buy some swim trunks, whatever. But I was like, I'm gonna buy some pop, and so we got the grocery cart and I bought like a 12 pack of like each soda that I wanted, and then in the mini fridge in our honeymoon suite it was all stocked full of pop. So every time we
That
came
is
back, it was
awesome.
right next to my side of the bed too. It was great. I just opened the door and it's like, this is great. But
That's
yeah,
so
so
funny.
I'm a sweet tea guy and I love Mountain Dew. But yeah, I try to drink as little of that as possible, but it's hard.
I think I started that pop fast with you. So did you
Yeah.
get that from Michael and Chris?
So I think you guys had started it like before me, like a year or two before me, and
Okay.
then my dad became diabetic. I think the year or two after you guys did that, and so yeah, I heard it from you guys, and something that's a great idea. Something I'm gonna try. I
That's
don't know how
awesome.
long they lasted. I think Michael and Chris lasted for, and you probably lasted for years, didn't you?
I'm still going.
Or still? Oh, you haven't had
I'm still
pop?
going. I haven't had a
Oh,
single no carbonation since 2004.
holy cow! Yeah, I started in
Yeah.
2007.
Yeah.
So
So I'm what's insane is I'm 20 years next year, which I
that's.
that's September 12th. Yeah.
I
And
thought
I
I
just
was
did it.
30. Man,
Well, I just did it cuz I thought somebody said you can't do it and I said, "Okay." And I'm stubborn, so I did it.
that's exactly.
Yeah, so that's funny. So what's your go-to sweet tea?
So I make my own tea at home. So I just buy
Okay.
uh,
Lipton or
Lipton usually, but yeah, I haven't really branched out too much. It's like that one tastes good, so I bought that. But my favorite tea, and I took one like this, is Chick-fil-A sweet tea. Like
oh
is
man.
I buy that by the gallons. We don't have one in our town,
Yeah.
but there's in Spokane, Washington, and so we'll drive to Spokane, Washington every once in a while just to get tea. Like, and I'll buy it by the
That's
gallon.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
by far my favorite tea, and yeah, eat
I
more
love
chicken.
it. I'm a tea person through and through. I have switched to Milos. So
Okay.
my problem is I like the sweet tea and my body doesn't. I'm just getting fatter and fatter and I have to stop. So I get the Milo 0 calorie. It's the yellow. It is
Okay.
the best. It
Okay.
is it is so good. So if you want no calories but still sweet, it's where it's at. I'm sure it's unhealthy for some reason, but I don't care.
Sure. Yeah, they always come up with something like used to be that eggs were so bad for you. Now they're like you can eat eggs again. It's like okay, whatever,
Right.
let it off,
Right.
whatever.
It is crazy. It is
But
crazy.
yeah, I think my second tea would be I think Arizona tea right now.
Okay.
It goes back and forth ever since the COVID thing. I lost my taste back
Mm,
then, and things just don't taste the same as they used to. So I used to like Gold Peak tea, and
right.
so it's weird. But yeah, so I think
Yeah.
homemade tea is my favorite right now since I can't have
Oh,
Chick Fil
for
A.
sure. I see. And Red Diamond to me is overrated.
Oh
I'm not a Red Diamond person. So you like Red Diamond?
no, I don't think I've even
Oh,
had Diamond. I think I've
okay.
seen.
Red Diamond's big down here in the South, so I don't like it. I'm Milo through and through.
Oh,
So
good.
anyway, maybe Milo will sponsor.
Yeah, you go.
That'd be cool. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. So we've talked about the rentals. I'd like to circle back around to that before we finish the podcast. But we talked about the dumpster. and how one kind of led into the other. That was pretty awesome. I mentioned YouTube in the beginning, but what made you want to start YouTube, and what made you continue? Because 100 plus videos is that's a lot of work. I don't think people realize how much work goes into the editing and all of that. What's that process been like?
It is a ton of work. And I think if I could, uh, there's a podcast I listen to called Bigger Pockets Podcast, and the host on there, well, it used to be the host. He's moved on to his own podcast now, but he says what sometimes things just feel heavy to you. And he says if I could just get rid of all those heavy things, the heaviest thing about YouTube is the editing. Like if I could just have someone
Hmm.
edit my videos, I'd make one every day. Like I talk to the cameras, no problem. That's fine. I
Right.
get nervous when I talk to people and in public, but when I talk to my camera, not a problem. And so I wanted to start YouTube because I've seen all the YouTubers I follow. I probably follow, I don't know, 30 YouTubers like faithfully. Some of them post
Hmm.
daily, some of them post weekly, some post monthly, whatever. But the money that they can make from their advertising and stuff is just insane. So I'm like, if I can get 100,000 subscribers, that would be a nice little extra paycheck for something that's so easy for me to do. So I'm like, man, I can just make videos. People nowadays don't know how to do anything, and that's not a slight against them. It's just their dad didn't know how to do it or didn't teach them. My dad taught me how to do it, so I was grateful. But I could make a lot of money just by doing simple things like replacing toilets or light bulbs, whatever. So I'm like, well, people
Right.
don't know how to do this. They would love to watch on YouTube, and so I'll put it on there. I'll make it as simple as possible, and people can watch it. And so, and the reason I've stuck with it so long is just because I'm stubborn, like you said, like to stop
Right.
drinking pop. Like someone said, you can't do it. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So,
Right.
yeah, if I could just continue making videos eventually. So YouTube has a monetization schedule. Like you have to have 4,000 subscribers. They've changed it now, so there's two different options. But the original one was 4,000 subscribers. No, 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 view hours. And so I'm at about 4,000 subscribers, which isn't a ton, but a lot for what I
That's a
thought would
good.
go.
Yeah, that's a good amount.
Good amount. And then I'm at 1,080 view hours, and so I'm like 3,000 hours short of being monetized. And so yeah, like just it was just another way to make money, another business is
Right.
my goal. We had one of our videos or one of my videos. It was a YouTube short. It got over 2.2 million views, which was
That's
crazy.
awesome.
And I think the hardest thing about YouTube too is there's so much hate in the comments and everything. And
Right.
I kind of got around it because I'm like, well, the more comments, the better, because the more attraction, the more views I get. So you can
For
hate
sure.
all you want. And so that video kind of made me a little more callous to the hate.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just fun. I enjoy it too. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, where can both of our listeners go to find your YouTube channel?
Yeah, you can follow me on YouTube at The Building Investor.
Okay.
Also on Instagram at The Building Investor if you wanted to see kind of occasionally I'll post about certain things that you won't see on YouTube as well through my life about investing and stuff. But yeah, the YouTube channel is called The Building Investor.
Okay, so go check out his YouTube channel. Just play it in the background and get those hours racked up. Just let it play all day long, and then we'll get him monetized. We'll send a couple views over your way, hopefully.
Perfect.
But
Yeah,
both of
your mom and
our
grandma, I'll take them.
that's right. Mom and grandma are going to be coming over to check you out. That's awesome. So go check him out. He's on YouTube and on Instagram as well. And honestly, I use YouTube for everything. Like even last night, no joke, I was working on my shower, and I wanted to see if my drain plug was if it was common for people to glue it, because I didn't want to twist it out and break something and make a
Yeah,
bigger mess. Um, and so I watched that, and sure enough, they didn't glue it in. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go get a tool and do what he did, and sure enough, it popped out. So it's funny you said that, because I literally I do that stuff all the time. If I don't know
yeah,
how to do it, I'll just look it up, and
exactly.
it's the new Google, really. I mean, for it's the Google for doing stuff.
Yeah,
So
I do too. And there's things I don't know, and so it's like, man, I wonder how they do that. Or do they use silicone when they put those drain plugs in, or do they just use pipe dope, or what do they use? And you
right,
go
right,
there, and there's always 100 different opinions, but usually you find out the most common one and go with that
right.
one.
That's cool. So do you normally do, I know I've watched several of your videos, and I'll say it again for the podcast people on the Apple podcast YouTube channel is the Building Investor, rather, TheBuildingInvestor, the Building Investor. If you're on the YouTube, you can see that there on the bottom of the screen. But if I've watched several of your videos where some of them are a little bit longer than you do like the time lapse and you show the work that you're doing. Do you like doing those a little bit more, or do you like doing the little 2 minute, this is how you fix this, or what philosophy do you have for that?
Yeah, well, so when I watch videos, I kind of try to make them the way I like to watch them. And so seeing the
Nice.
progress in the time lapse is just really fun, especially when there's music involved. Like if you just watch a time lapse when you're editing, it's so boring. It's the worst thing
Mm-hmm.
ever. But if you add music to it, it's like, man, that's just so cool. And so I want to kind of give some explanation of how to do it, and then
Right.
also kind of give some of that entertainment value as well. And so I try to keep my videos around the 10-minute mark at least. That way I get enough view hours because
Right.
on average, I somewhere between 100 and 500 views per video. And so if they're only like a minute long, then I get no hours. But if I
Right.
can make it somewhat longer and entertaining, my most popular video right now, I think was 22 minutes. And so that really got a lot of hours just in itself. I think it's like 435 hours by itself. And
Nice.
so, yeah, try to make the videos entertaining with the time lapses, and then also kind of show how to do it. Is my favorite. But the short videos kind of bring in subscribers, and so I make the short videos that way. People will click and subscribe, and then they'll look at my full length videos. And so I
Right.
kind of make those. I used to make a full length video every. I would post every Sunday, and then every Wednesday I would post a short. And so it's kind of just a cycle. And yeah, so the shorts are kind of difficult because they only allow you to make it in a minute. The 60 seconds is what they
Mm.
used to be. And so trying to explain how to do something in 60 seconds, you're either going to miss something, which people will cuss you out all the time on the comments for,
Right.
or it's not quality. So it's really tough to make and try to voice over everything in that time. But so those are a little more tricky, but they're also pretty quick to make because the last one I made, I think I made it in like 5 minutes, and
Nice.
it is to post a video like that and get it on there so
Right.
you have some content. But yeah, so I like the longer ones just because that's what I like watching. But that's why,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know it was kind of last minute, and but I'm glad. There's a lot of people who, like I said earlier, want to get into the rental game. If you could kind of close us out with what, if you could go back and restart, or if you could give us advice and how to get started, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to get into the rental game?
So the way I got started, I'll try to shorten it a little bit. Is I at Bible college they had this class, it's a financial freedom class, and I was like, well, that sounds fun. At that point I didn't know what I want to do with my life. I'm like, I'm just going to college because I actually went there because my little sister went there. My dad asked me to go, kind of be with her. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing anything important right now. I'll go do that. And so I ended up staying there longer than her, and then this class came up. I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. I'm gonna go check this out. The first teacher of that class, there was like I think it was a 5 night class, and every night there's a different teacher. The first night, this guy gets up, and he owned 450 units at the time,
Oh
rentals.
wow.
And so I was like, that's insane. Like, that's a lot of money. He drove this brand new truck. He had a beautiful house, brand new travel trailer. I was like, this is amazing. And he's still faithful to church. Like, this is pretty cool. So the first question he asked when he got to the top of front of the class, he says, who here knows what passive income is? And everyone looks around at each other and they're like, I don't know. I didn't know what passive income was either. And so this guy kind of timidly raises his hand and he says, well, my dad sends me money every month for food and stuff. And the guy's like, well, technically that's not passive income because your dad's sending that to you. You're not earning it at
Right.
all. And so he went into explaining how passive income works and how you can buy something for this amount and you rent it for this amount. You pay the bills, but then there's still extra afterwards. I'm like, that sounds amazing. And he says, if you have enough of those properties, is you can pay for your living and you can
Mm.
retire at whatever time you want. I'm like, that sounds amazing. And so he said, I asked him after class, I said, how do I get started? How do I do this? This is my calling now. And he says, read this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm.
And I'll read it. And so I read that. I hate reading. It's just, I can't sit
Right.
still. So reading is tough. So I like doing things with my hand. And so I rented the book from the library. I think I read the book in like 2 or 3 days. It's not a very big book. It's like, uh, yeah, it's about that thick, I guess. But so I read that book and it changed my life. And so I would say if you're getting started in real estate, read that book. It's not necessarily a real estate book, but it kind of a mindset book on how uh, good debt versus bad debt and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would start with that book, and it'll kind of open your eyes to where you need to go. It's probably the most popular real estate book you could ever find. And then if I were to recommend a second book, there's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if
Mm.
you've read that book, but it's just two mindset books that would really kind of put you on the path of where you want to go. So That's what
That's
I'd recommend.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, so start there, and then that'll give you kind of some inspiration and some leadership guidance to make the right decisions. That's awesome. Well,
absolutely. And
if
go ahead.
go ahead. No,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, yeah, find a mentor. If you have someone that you look up to that's doing it, go pick
Yeah.
their brain. And then, yeah, there's different podcasts you can listen to. I used to listen to this one called Bigger Pockets Podcast, and they're the most listened to real estate podcast right now. Super
Mm,
cool. Um, and there's another podcast called um, A Better Life with Brandon Turner.
mm,
I would recommend those. Yeah, just get started with something like that.
yeah. You gotta move. You can't be complacent. You gotta get something going. Do
Yeah.
something. Yeah, that's awesome. So my takeaways from the episode today are sacrifice, delayed gratification, and move.
Yes, do something.
And
Yeah.
it's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. If you would like to hear more from Ezra, go to his YouTube channel, The Building Investor, and check out his videos. Are you open to talking to people, kind of doing some mentor? I know you're super busy with everything that you've got going on, but can they reach out to you
Yeah,
through
feel free
YouTube?
to message me on Instagram, and I'll answer if I can. Definitely very busy. As far as paid mentoring or something like that, I don't really do any of that. But yeah, if
Right,
you have any questions, I can, yeah, leave it on the comments on the YouTube channel. That way I know you're watching
right.
and all that stuff. Yeah, just shoot me a question. I'll answer if I can.
That'd be awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I appreciate you guys listening. If you have any questions or anything like that, reach out to Ezra. He'd be happy to help you out there. But I'm looking forward to doing some more interviews down the road as well. If there's anything that we can do for you, go to our Facebook page at Business from A to EZ, and we'd be happy to answer those. And if you'd like to be interviewed and talk about your business like we did here today, go there as well and let us know, and we will try to get you scheduled. Ezra, good to catch up, and we'll have to do this again because I want to talk about the rental side, rental or Airbnb, and
Definitely.
kind of talk through some of those things. And but that'll be for another episode. So, all right, is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Yeah. Eat more chicken, I guess. Just drink some tea and
Yeah,
eat.
that's right. Clean your windows and eat some
There
chicken.
you go. That's
All
all
right,
good.
man. We'll see.